Okay, everyone, welcome. Today we're going to talk about how to change our partner. This is like we do every Monday at 10 a.m. through Instagram or YouTube, live beneath the surface. It's called beneath the surface because, yeah, we want to look underneath layers of what typically our mind wants to look. We want to look underneath. We want to look deeper. We want to go really, really deep to see what we can find there. Because most of the times, not looking deep, it's not really paying off. And what we're doing is just getting stuck in a cycle of the same patterns and the same people and the same dance and the same choreography. And so we need to really just be like, okay, what's underneath what people are saying? What's underneath what I'm feeling? What's underneath this standardized default reactions that I'm having to life? Not only things that I take action on, but also things that the society and the collective is just impulsing me to do. Before we go there, I want to remind you that I am on Instagram at DariLuna_. TikTok, I am DariLuna, and here on YouTube, DariLuna_. And I have a Luna membership, $25 a month. This is what many people call the gym for your mind, right? Mental health is so important. Mental hygiene is so important. So we practice mindfulness, energy work, and we do master classes every month in there. And that could be what keeps you up between all of your therapy sessions or all of the other work that you're doing, all of the retreats that you're going, all of the books that you're reading, because we do need community to help each other go through, right? I also have a signature program that happens twice a year in September and January. You can go into my waiting list for that on my LinkedIn profile or here underneath this video. And I also have events happening in San Diego and inside the membership every month, but you can sign up to those master classes without being a member. So all of that link in my profile or underneath this video, you will find the descriptions of everything. Okay. Subject for today: how do I change my partner? Well, I want to start with a little story. Okay. I remember in one situation where when I was going through my first divorce, I didn't know I was going through the divorce yet, but I was in a process of like really working, and we were as a couple really working on things together. So we went to have some sessions, there weren't therapy sessions, but they were more like spiritual guidance sessions. And those sessions were really powerful for us. I remember when we got there the first time, it was hard to get to that place the first time because do you want it, you don't want it, that takes a while to make that decision. But when we got there, the first question that I would say the guide asked us was, are you really in love? Like, do you really love this other person? Because if you're not really in love, any work that we're doing here matters. And so we all answer, yeah, we are. Of course, we are in love. That's why we're here. We want to really make this relationship better. And then she asked, okay, so that also means that if you are in love with the person in front of you, that means that you then are in love with yourself. And when she asked that, I remember that kind of threw me off a little bit because that was the least place where my mind was. You know, my mind was so in the exterior that question brought me back to, oh, wait, oh, you're talking about a relationship with myself. And it was so tempting to be just to throw it, you know, to just push it off and say, yeah, of course, you know, of course I am. Of course I love myself. But it was deeper than that. And that's why we're here with this subject, right? Because there is a fine line and there's a different, and we need clarity to understand where and to what point do I love myself as I am? Or where and to what point do I love myself, but I also want to change myself because there are parts that I don't like? And where and to what point do I just want to change the things that I hate about myself? Notice that those are like three different statements. And those three different statements are really important to differentiate because that is what's going to give us a hint and a clue of how are we performing or working within a relationship. Because remember, a relationship, it's the mirror of the relationship that we have with ourselves. So we are going to react or choose or make decisions or create independence or dependence or attach ourselves or not to the person in front of us, all the same way that we do it with ourselves, right? So that question that she asked us, okay, so then that means you love yourselves. That was such a powerful question. And I think that's the question that I want to ask you. If you're attracted by this, if you clicked on this video, you're attracted by this subject, because we've all been in that situation where we feel that, if only this person could change, if only they could change a little bit, and I know exactly what they have to change, it would be so much better. It would be so much ethical. It would be so much easy to love. It would be so much in alignment with our goals. If only this other person that I'm in love with could change, right? If only they could be different. If only they communicate more. If only they didn't do this or that. If only they didn't look at me like that. If only they didn't disrespect me, etc., etc., etc. We've all been there. We've all been there, and we can see it so clearly. That's the thing, right? We can see it so clearly. And so that clarity, it is a really powerful clarity as long as we understand and we remember that they are our mirrors. And so they are, in a way, representing the ask that I have about myself. So hopefully, when we want somebody else to change, especially our partner, when we want our partner to change, it is because there is an inner guidance, an inner wisdom within us that is asking us, look at yourself in this mirror and then try to change that within yourself that you're hoping they change. And every single time that you want your partner to change, what you really want is to change yourself. However, it looks much higher and exaggerated in your partner. And that is what helps us understand that mirror and use that mirror as medicine. And so, of course, we cannot change our partners, right? This we know at an intellectual level. I can say this to you, you remember you can't change people, right? And you would say, yeah, of course, I know I can't change it. I know. However, there is a layer of our subconscious that would insist. And how do we insist? We insist by complaining. We insist by being, the person that's just, I'm going to leave this comment here, right? And hopefully they'll grab it. I'm going to leave this joke here and hopefully they realize it. And we don't connect those two dots that our intellect knows that we can't change them. But our subconscious is acting on a pattern of hope that the other person can fit within what we're expecting. And so, yes, I know I can't change them, but that's not responsible, right? But that's not, that's rude. That's not respectful, right? They shouldn't be doing that. They, as my partner, should be doing other things. So every time I say a phrase like that, every time I complain or every time I say this is really bothering me, what's underneath that expression is I want to change you. The fact that I don't ask my person and maybe I do, but the fact that a lot % of the time I'm not confronting her or him with, I really need you to change this, I really need you to work on this, doesn't mean that we're not saying many other phrases where we're still hoping and saying that underneath it all. This is why beneath the surface, right? Because I want to highlight that part so that we notice. All of this is to bring some light so that we notice. It's so important to notice, because it's when we notice, we're bringing it to our consciousness. And when we're bringing it to our consciousness, then we have more possibilities to change that pattern within us, which is, again, the only thing that we can change, right? So after I went to that session, after the session started, right? And she said to us, oh, okay, so that means you guys love yourself. We answer, yes, we love ourselves. But the truth is that we weren't really loving ourselves, or we were having mixed feelings or mixed actions about loving ourselves, because we were going to this service to help us with our relationship. But at the same time, we individually weren't showing up for our own values and our own beliefs and our own self to ourselves, right? Because the moment I say, I need help changing this person so this person can understand, because this person made a mistake, because this person is not doing what they need to do, the moment I am in that energy field, that just clearly tells me that I am, in many ways, and probably not in such a large way, doing the same thing to myself. Okay, so if I feel that that person is irrespecting me, or not being ethical, or not being loving enough, or not being, or abandoning me, or ignoring me, then that means that I am not loving myself, right? Because that means that that person hasn't either seen me or smelled me or energetically grabbed the fact that I respect myself, that I take myself into consideration. I know I don't ignore myself, that I don't betray myself. That person hasn't smelled it because I haven't really acted upon that, meaning I'm not living in integration. So that means I'm not really loving myself. Yeah, so can you see how that is all showing up? And so a lot of the times what happens is, well, you're not changing, and that doesn't fit with what I need. And that is okay. Sometimes that's the realization, and that's fine. But what I'm talking about is, if you're not changing and you don't fit what I need, there's a lot of things that we need to look there. There's a lot of things that we want to look there. I have a couple of notes here. One of them, the number one, is, what is it that I am not changing about myself, which I just told you right now. What is it that I'm not changing about myself? Maybe with myself, or maybe with somebody else that's not my partner, that I'm not willing to see, I'm not willing to talk the truth about. That's number one. Number two, am I really, and how can I, what would love do in this situation of understanding my person's needs, right? Because this person in front of me that I love have needs, and how can I adjust to their needs without asking if they're adjusting to my needs first? Yeah, so when someone, one or the other in the relationship, it's not willing to understand the other person's needs, then it becomes just a one-sided part of the relationship. And that also happens. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing your job. What I want to make clear here is, like, there's two visions always to things. Okay, I'm gonna give you like this little paper. There's duality in everything, right? There is what I see on one side, like a coin, and what I see on the other side. A lot of times what happens when we meet somebody, well, a lot of times, not always, right? Because we are physical hormonal mammals that life has created us to reproduce, right? So when I meet somebody else and I fall in love with that person, I fall in love with one side of them, right? I only see this part. And this part is beautiful because through the hormonal change and through the hormonal phase of when we're meeting each other, we can only see the best version of ourselves. And that it's not done purposely in a mean way, that it's done instinctively. Our body just becomes that, right? And it's a beautiful stage to be in. And it's an inevitable stage to be in as well, right? So we are completely attracted to each other through chemicals and energy that are not necessarily cognitively what's really happening in our subconscious. You know, our trauma patterns are not really coming in. We're not really seeing through the typical beliefs that we have. We're just blind. That's why love is blind, right? We can't see anything else but this page. And that's why mindfulness and emotional intelligence is so important, because it's a tool that allows us to experience this page of the person. However, knowing that at some point that's going to regulate itself. And after 2 or 3 years, I'm going to start looking at the whole person. It's not that this wasn't true. It's not that this wasn't true. It's that this was highlighted for me. Like a bee that sees, you know how bees see flowers in like all this multicolor perspective, not like we see them. It truly is like a billboard that is just for the bee to grab their attention so that the bee can go there to pollinize the flower. Same thing. So it's highlighted for us. And then as time passes by, it starts turning over so that we can see the whole person. And that's what we mean when we say love transforms. Because this keeps turning and turning, and it's always in movement, right? The person in front of us is always changing. And we, at the same time, simultaneously, we are always changing too. So look at this process. It's not a black and white. But when our mind and our mindset is not stable into awaken, understanding that there's like a broader possibility of seeing another person. There is the yin, there is the yang, there's the feminine, there's the masculine, there's the trauma responses of the other person, there's the things that they're working through, there's their consciousness, there's like their ability to see. There is so much emotional matureness that could be happening in that person as I am in the relationship with that person. It takes matureness for me to be able to allow a space for that, for the other person. But if I have never experienced that, if I've never seen that, if I don't know that that exists, what's going to happen is after the hormonal stage, 2 or 3 years, I am going to see as like, what happened with the person I fell in love? Because now what I see is a whole different, completely person. And that's not really true, meaning the person you fell in love, it's still there. It's just that you're now seeing the other side. And why do we want to see the other side? Like, why is the other side and being emotionally mature and being awakened and understanding another human being is so important? Because that person is showing us the possibility of growth within ourselves. How is it showing it to us? By triggering us and making us feel uncomfortable. Are they doing that on purpose? No, they're not doing that on purpose. They are showing up as the perfect combination that we need based on the energy field to understand and see ourselves. So the bottom line here is, are we really learning from that process? Are we really learning from that process? Because whether the relationship stays together or not, that's not really what's going to determine if we're learning from the process, right? Because a lot of the times what I hear and what happens a lot in my sessions, for example, is I just need to get out of this relationship because this person is betraying me, this person is doing, all of these things to me, and it's disrespecting me and mistreating me. And so I need to out. I need out. And that is true. You do need out. You do need to, bring your alignment back to your dignity, bring your alignment back to self-respect. That is true. However, if you just walk out of that relationship without realizing what was that needed to be integrated, processed, and why did you find and felt there is a part of you that felt that you can fit within that person. You chose it. There's a part of you that chose it, and that part of you, it's still there within you. Just because you leave that person doesn't mean that the part of you who chose that person, whether it was mistakenly or not, and it's never mistakenly, it's still walking away with you. And what I mean by this part of you, I like to do an analogy where it's sort of, I always tell you this, it's kind of like a mold, right? It's like you are walking with this mold in your brain. It's like a shape, right? And so, yes, I am going to get rid of this relationship because this person doesn't respect me and it just doesn't work out. But I'm walking with the same mold that attracted that person. And yet that person is away from me. But if my mold, it's still the same, I then move forward, and then guess what's going to happen? Another person. It's going to fit perfectly in that mold that I haven't integrated yet, that I haven't changed, that I haven't processed, that I never really understood and saw why is it that I attracted that person to myself and what that master, that teacher was telling me. Because all of my relationships, especially the closest ones, are telling me something, And so you can, you can say, well, I don't really want to have another partner. I don't want to have another partner. I'm just not going to have any more partners. I'm okay by myself. And this is typical. This is really typical, maybe after your 40s or your 50s. Of course, that's not something you're going to decide because life knows better. And this is not something you can say, this is so, this is so profound, Dari. It's a lot of work I don't want to think about. I have too many things in my mind. I have to raise my child. I have to raise my children. I have to go to work. I'm so busy. I can't really go through all this stuff. It's a lot of work and I don't want to deal with it. The truth is like you don't have a choice because this is life. A life, it's going to little by little push you again, softly, if you let it, do it softly, but harshly if you don't look at it for too long, into another lesson so that you can look at that situation in yourself. So if you don't have another relationship, this will come up with the relationship with your children. If you don't have another relationship, this will come up with anyone, your neighbor. Your neighbor is going to be mistreating you, irrespecting you. It's going to be lying to you. It could be anyone. It could be your boss. It could be anyone. I always tell you, right? It could be even your pet. And that is because, again, it's law. You are walking with that pattern inside of you that needs to be rewired, that needs to be processed. But how do I process it, right? Because the thing is like when you're leaving a relationship or when you are in a relationship when you want to change the other person, you're probably going through a process of grief. And in the process of grief, we can lose a sense of stability and groundedness. A lot of times it's such a roller coaster that it will be really hard to have the ability sometimes, depending on where you're at and how much experience you have processing grief, and whether you're asking for help and you have other people around you that are supporting you and so on. But depending on so many factors, it might be really hard for you to do this work of integration of your shadow, of what the other people it's showing you, the other partner, your partner is showing you, when you are in such a pain and when you are going through a lot of pain. And so I understand because it can be very overwhelming, right? Like, how am I supposed to have to understand this, do the work on myself when I'm the one that was mistreated, right? And then go through this pain. It's just so, it feels so unfair. And I know that feeling, because it's the part of us that we feel like we can't take it all in. We can't, it's just too much. But I'm here to tell you that you can. Whatever is happening to you, it's exactly in divine order. It's perfectly unfolding in front of your eyes for your own evolution. Yes, the world doesn't stop as you're going through the process, but most importantly, ask for help. Ask for help if you feel you can't do it on your own, and understand that the grief part, it's the offering that the universe has for you to integrate it. It feels like I don't have brains to integrate this because I am such a pain, but the truth is, like, they're both happening. The grief and the crisis is shaping you, right? Whether you're still in the relationship or not, you might be still in the relationship, but the relationship might be just already exploding pretty much. For like, and doesn't mean that you guys are going to break up or not, but what it does mean is that there's something there that requires your attention, and that it has nothing to do with changing the other person. It has nothing to do with the other person making a mistake. You can take the situation if you feel like it, and intuitively you feel like you are betraying yourself by staying there. You can take the situation and set boundaries and really start asking yourself, where can I start loving myself again? Where am I not loving myself? What would love do in this situation? But the bottom line is, we cannot change others. We cannot change other people. And when we said yes to this relationship, we also said yes to growth. We also said yes, and we welcome whatever it was that this relationship had to teach us. And a lot of times, something really interesting happens. What we're asking for a lot of times requires that a part of us completely dies in order for a new part of us and new qualities to go and bring forth that new part of us. And we don't take into consideration that death in between, right? We're just like, oh, I really want to travel, and I want to make a lot of money, and I want to see myself expansive and owning my business, or having this position in my job, or I really want to have kids, or I really want to just dedicate myself to my family. All of those visions are beautiful, but we don't take in consideration that in order for me to step into that level of owning my truth and understanding and loving who I am, it requires all parts of me that didn't believe that to die. And when that death happens, it hurts and it changes you. And that is a transformation that inevitably is what you're asking for. You're asking for a new version of you, but you just see it through the things, maybe the environment, the things, what that's going to mean. That's going to mean I'm going to have kids, or that's going to mean I'm going to have money in the bank, or that's going to mean I'm going to know the world and travel, or whatever. You can smell it and taste it as you see the action, but you forget sometimes, and we all forget, that transformation, for us to get there, it's going to mean that we have to break, that something in us has to break, right? That the butterfly, in order to do all the traveling and becoming a mother and getting that whole new job and like changing my relationship and being a more healthy person, whatever it is that you're envisioning, that butterfly right now it's in the cocoon, or even before the cocoon, right? It's in gusanito. And so that means no longer will you have this version of yourself. And the attachments that this version of yourself has sometimes are jobs, are partners, are cities. And a lot of times those have to go away in order for you to grow. So I just wanted to remind you that, right? That imagine how small we end up thinking when because we don't understand and we don't see that whole butterfly analogy of like, wow, like the transformation I'm going to go through in order to get to the next level of my consciousness awareness. We cannot really see that. And instead our mind is in, no, you change so that I can live comfortably, right? You change so that I can be respected. You change because you're disrespecting me, you're betraying me, and I don't deserve this. Can you see the difference? That how small do we shrink ourselves to believing that I want to stay the way I am, and that I can't stay the way I am because of somebody else. So I'm truly giving the power of my growth, of my evolution to somebody else. I'm truly acting when I want to change somebody else in order for me to be okay, or for things to be okay, or for life to run smoothly. I am truly giving my power away. I am truly not allowing for infinite opportunities of life to manifest through my life. I'm truly not allowing myself to be a channel to dispense the gifts that I came to express into this world. Because my mind, it's focused in such a small thing where I'm just completely give others the power, because I cannot handle that power on my own. I know I don't believe in on my own power. Yeah, so quick reminder there. Quick reminder, use this feeling of every time you feel, oh, if only this person changed, if only they could, turn off the lights when they left the room, or if only they can wash the dishes, or if only they would smile at me and not talk to me like that, or if only they weren't such a workaholics, or if only they wanted to go out more. Anytime you have that type of thoughts, bring yourself back to, wait, this is a sign of me thinking small. They don't have the power over me, and I don't need those changes to make. Instead, let me look at this person as a mirror and ask myself, what is it that my inner self is asking me to change? What is it that I am refusing to change, resisting to change within me? What is it that I am sabotaging myself from growing and multiplying and blossoming through me? What new qualities trying to come up that these triggers are letting me know about it? Yeah? Bueno, I hope this was powerful. Thank you everyone who stopped by, showed up here today. Any questions? In the meantime, I want to say this month, I'm talking about May 2023, but if you're watching this later, know that I have a masterclass every month. So the masterclass for this month is measuring your wholeness. This is really powerful because I was talking to a client the other day and she was telling me like, it's really hard to know if I've been doing work on myself for so long, and it's just really hard to know if I'm actually like, if it's working out. Like, how do I know if it's working out? Because my life feels like worse now. And that is natural, it's very typical. And so this class is to measure, and I'm going to give you really important tools to understand where you're at in your spiritual journey, where you're at in your awakening a journey, in your consciousness a journey. And what can you do to either move along that spectrum or to keep yourself in the pace that you want to keep yourself on. Okay. It's not that abstract, and it's not that, whoa, like, how do I know that I'm doing the work or not doing the work? So that class is going to be on May 31st. And then every month I have a class. Also, I have a class in person in San Diego happening this week, May 25th in Mission Valley. So if you're in San Diego, I'll see you there. All that info on my Instagram or in YouTube down here in the comments. Love you guys. Take care. It was really, really nice to be here today. See you next Monday for another Beneath the Surface at 10 a.m. Pacific time.